Hello, Stephanie Joy with All Things Social Security. We had a Q&A with a short little clip discussion on a particular topic. So I'm going to attach it for you here. It might be something that you're interested in if you clicked on this header. And following that, we're going to go through it a little bit more. So just wanted to give you the heads up. This is where it started from, and then we'll have the bigger discussion right after. All right, chat with you later. Bye-bye. S. Lewis says, if I could offer advice to people seeking SSDI due to mental health problems, I would say get write-ups documentation from problems you had at work. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. We've talked about this in a video. It could even be a coworker. You'd probably ultimately want to have the perfected statement on a SSA 795 form, because the coworker probably can't put it on letterhead of the employer. If it's a supervisor or someone with authority to put it on letterhead of the employer and sign it as the supervisor, that's fine too. I would still get it attached to a 795, because the 795, where they sign that, in addition to attaching the form, when they say see the attached letter, they sign it, they are attesting that they are telling the truth. So it's got a degree of liability attached to it if they're lying. I've never seen that happen, it ever be an issue. But it's kind of like you're saying it under oath. You're saying, to the best of my knowledge, this is what happened. And they could talk about observations, outbursts at work, getting distracted, forgetting to do a job, forgetting how to do some simple steps they could do yesterday. There's a ton of things they can do. S. Lewis. Hey there. That was one of our little Q&A clips. I hope you found it informative or helpful or just enjoyable. I am attaching a related video that we have put together a while back that is on a similar topic and or an extension of what we were just talking about. So if you needed some more information on that, that's a place to start. You can also look in our playlists. There is a ton of them. I think there's over 1,000 videos. So there's almost every topic in the world touched upon in some way, shape, or form. And again, as a reminder, you can always put in the comments any kind of question you have, even if it's unrelated to this or any other video. I will talk to you later. Carry on. Good afternoon. Okay, this is all about a brief statement about securing some evidence that might not be in your medical records, but can help support your medical records if they're lacking in some way. We all know that medical evidence is the foundation of any claim for disability benefits, Social Security disability or SSI, but the things outside of our medical records can be very important as well, in support of and to perhaps fill in the gaps where some things are not entirely clear once a diagnosis, of course, has already been made. Okay, one of the things that I think can be really helpful is a statement from a prior employer, particularly the last one was out, probably the last one you worked at. Now, this is it's kind of like opening up Pandora's box, however, because if you're asking for a letter and you don't know what you're asking for, you're probably going to get something that's going to shoot down your case. What I like to do, and if you become very adept at some of the Social Security rulings that you can look up and read and absorb, the SSA has to consider non-medical evidence, including these third-party statements. So if a third-party statement provides, say, a boss or a coworker or a supervisor describing how you were unable to maybe perform your job sufficiently, satisfactorily, maybe they were giving you extra help, they're your friend. I mean, they're obviously helping you now by writing a statement. Or sometimes an objective employer, particularly in a smaller business, will be willing to do this, to just give his or her observations. And if you know what limitations are going to be pertinent to a decision of disabled in your case, that is the kind of questions I like to ask of a prior employer or supervisor or coworker. I'm not going to ask them to provide information that's not going to make a difference to the case. Limitations are not going to make a difference to your case, not to the final outcome. So once you know what limitations you have that, if proven sufficiently, would mean an award of disability, of course, you want that in your medical records, but medical records being as they are these days, sometimes a little extra input from objective observers, such as an employer or a supervisor or even a coworker, can go a long way at times. If they're describing what they have seen in terms of, say, ability to stand for a certain amount of time, and what they have observed happens to be the amount of time that would render you disabled from all occupations, that might be something that would be helpful if they included in a letter. There's something called an SSA 795. Typically, if I don't have letterhead from a actual employer, where the employer actually, or one of his, management, if they write on letterhead, if they don't have that capacity, then I have them provide it on a SSA-795. It's a certified statement. It's under oath to some degree, penalties of perjury. And it's just to the best of their knowledge. So they're not in any danger by doing this. Anyway, I think that can be really helpful. There's a Social Security ruling 83-20 confirms that the lay evidence, that would be lay evidence because it's non-medical, is something that has to be considered. I think it might be SSR 6-3 might also be another one. But in any event, I'll look through your Social Security rulings and find out which ones describe additional non-medical evidence that you can secure. Again, you're going to want to know what realities that person can talk about that actually point to disabled and not impaired, but not disabled. That's a really threading of a needle at times. And if you're not really well versed in the Social Security disability rules and regulations that define when we are, and that's a lot of vocational information, you could easily screw it up. So best to get really well versed on it, or better yet, have a professional be handling this for you. But in any event, just don't forget those layperson statements. Employer is a great one. I try to get them when they're available. Obviously, a lot of employers are not going to do it, but sometimes you can get a coworker or two, and sometimes you do get the employer. So it's always worth asking. It could be a prior supervisor who no longer is. Maybe they're no longer even at the company. But it's a good extra little nugget to get, I think. And sometimes it can probably be a little persuasive when the evidence is kind of leaning your way but hasn't gotten there yet. That might put it over the edge. Winning evidence. Have a good one. Hello again. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful, if not just a little bit informative. In the event you have a Social Security question you want addressed, please feel free to make a comment below and ask the question, even if nothing to do with this particular video. And just a quick, again, reminder, we have our daily video shares and tips around noon every day of the week. And on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have our live Q&A session where you can come in live and enter your questions in the chat. And we all pretty much have a good time for an hour or two. I look forward to seeing you there, hopefully. And lastly, don't forget about our benefactor memberships. They're very reasonably priced. The first one is very nominal and you get a few perks, but on a bigger scale, it contributes to us being able to fulfill a mission of assisting certain people with representation that would otherwise not be able to get it. We look forward to continuing to do that. And so far it's working out like the bomb. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Bye-bye now.